Hey guys, welcome back to this video. In this video, we are going to talk about Docker container, more architecture towards the Docker container, the real one, I would say. I mean, whatever you're seeing right now is my architecture, which I'm showing to people who is new to Docker. But then there is another architecture below this. I'm going to show you that as well, but a lot of people doesn't show that. See, all they think about is, all they make people think about is Docker is a software which will actually virtualize, but then it's not the real thing. So going down to understand more about Docker, so I'm just going to get you the actual Docker architecture here. Docker is just a software, or Docker engine for that matter, is just a software which triggers a lot of things, which actually helps it to make a container. Now, most of the things which helps it to make a container is in your Linux system, the host system. In terms of Windows system, there is also an alternative function which actually uses that. But then our focus is on the Linux system at this moment, where I'll be talking about the Linux system. Let's say, for example, that I'm going to install a Docker engine on a Linux system, and that Docker engine is going to create a service called containerd. And now this service will be hosted on something called OCI. Now, what is OCI? Is that first thing you need to understand what is open standards. Now, remember, when the Docker came into existence, every company wanted to create their own containers or have their application hosted on their own containers. Like, for example, you have companies like IBM, Oracle, Amazon, Google, likewise Microsoft. So they want to have their own container. So if we're going to create a lot of containers like these, and each companies are going to have their own containers, then obviously shifting the container from one platform to another platform is going to be really hectic, and it will have its own complication. So they all came up to understanding something called an open standards. Now, this open standards ensures that the containers which are created using the open standards, normally all containers nowadays are created using the open standards, they will be easily taken from one platform of a Docker, let's just say, for example, Docker container, to cri-o container, which is basically for OpenShift. So this kind of a shift will happen without any kind of a big impact, because these containers are going to be created with open standards. Now, first thing about open standards is the open container initiative. Now, open container initiative enables you to create images, maintain containers, create containers. So all these options can be done through the OCI. That's where we are right now. So Docker has this OCI called containerd. So this is a software which runs within Docker, which enables you to create containers. But then it doesn't just directly gets the container enabled. So it talks to the host system where your Docker is hosted, or your Docker engine is running. So it talks to the host system, and then it uses these two very critical Linux kernel feature called namespace and control group. We'll see more about namespace and control group later point of time in another video. But these two services are going to be a key factor here to enable the containers. And because of these two services is going to be in your kernel level of Linux. So most of the latest versions of kernels has these two features in them, which enables you to create multiple containers. So what Docker is doing is like it's triggering the mechanism which is by default within your Linux kernel feature, and it creates containers. So what these containers does is basically the container is not communicating with each other. It has no relevance between each other except for the network component if you want to have a communication between them. But then these are separate systems, completely separate or completely independent from each other. So this is one of the features which a lot of people talk about when they talk about the architecture of the Docker. Now, when I started learning Docker as well, I was thinking this is the only architecture, because there was no other architecture shown to me which actually has the internal workings of Docker. But then when I did a lot of experiments around Docker, and I found out that there are more than what it meets the eye. So this is what I wanted to share with you. In the next video, we will be comparing the Docker with Kubernetes, and then we will be talking about something called container runtime interface. Now, there are the other OCAs as well available for you for your disposal, and those are also something which we will be seeing on the next video. Thanks again for watching this one. I'll see you on the next one.